Okay.
They can't.
Oh, is it?
It could be said.
DVR.
Okay, so I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen regular meeting Tuesday, November 19, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the town hall to order at 7 p.m. In attendance are Selectmen Rizza, Concadello, Aspar, O'Brien, and Borbeau, and our town manager, David Porter. First order of business is the acceptance of the minutes from November 6, 2024. I'll accept the minutes, please.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of November 6th, 2024.
1 second.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Well done. Thank you, Tracy. Well done.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Additions to the agenda? I have none. Moving on to public comments, members of the Marble community are invited to share their thoughts with the Board of Selectmen. Speakers must provide their name and address. Comments are limited to not more than 3 minutes. Please note that the board will not engage in dialogue with the public. Any public comments?
Oh.
Hearing none, we'll go on to new business. 5A, the letter to state legislative delegation reason the new exit 12. Joe and I and David have been the ones discussing this basically. And Joe came up with a draft of a letter. He and I worked on tweaking, came to David. Simone typed it. I did a little bit more tweaking, make sure the comments were there and all that stuff. You've had a chance to read this hopefully. If it's going to to Steve Weir and to Kathy Austin, and it's coming from us, I felt it was really important that the 5 of us signed the letter.
Nice.
Because that shows that we are leaning into it. Was there anything that you didn't like in the letter that needed to be changed before we take one copy and sign it and pass it over to Simone to make mail in?
No, but perhaps Joe could read it. Could he read
I
it?
can read it. I'll be more than happy to read it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. To begin with a little history behind this. In our last administration, the Board of Selectmen did try to get this on-ramp to move forward with it. Peter helped us with it. It went to CROG, and it didn't go any farther than that at that time. State Representative Steve Rear gave me a phone call and says, Joe, would you like to put this back on the table? And I said the Board of Selectmen would be ecstatic since 3 of us live on North Main Street. The letter reads as follows. To State Representative Steve Rear and State Senator Kathy Austin from the Marlborough Board of Selectmen, is dated November 19th, and it's reference to Route 2 eastbound exit 12 ramp. It reads as follows. The Marlborough Board of Selectmen, along with Town Manager Dave Porter, is requesting you, State Representative Steve Rear, and Senator Kathy Austin bring the proper Department of Transportation representatives to Marlborough Town Hall for a constructive conversation about Route 2 eastbound exit 12. In 1958 and early 1960s, Route 2 was designed and built to what we have today. Exit 12 had very little use and was a convenient exit for the access to West Road and North Main Street. Moving forward 64 years, this exit now services commercial uses for travelers going to the casino and tractor trailers that make deliveries in our industrial zone. There should be a little note here. The note says, some of the products being delivered through our residential streets are subject to federal hazardous material transportation regulations. The most concerning activity is from a local LP gas distribution depot moving 300,000 gallons of propane by truck on a regular basis, again in our residential neighborhoods. The above users who need to re-enter Route 2 eastbound have no choice other than to continue on North Main Street toward Marlboro Center. This requests then to travel through a residential area along North Main Street. There are 5 pedestrian crosswalks as well as a heavily utilized sidewalks. Vehicles such as the propane tankers and other commercial traffic put the residents or the pedestrians in harm's way. We assume you knew this was not the original intent of the DOT engineers when it designed the off ramps. One horrific example of tragedies which have and could occur concern an 81-year-old woman just trying to get her mail. A man on his way to the casino, needing a restroom, hurried along from North Main Street, frustrated that he couldn't find one. Tragically, he killed the elderly woman. See attached newspaper article. We are requesting the state of Connecticut build a Route 2 eastbound entrance ramp at exit 12. Thank you, the Marlboro Board of Selectmen. Does any of the members have any other questions? John?
No,
None?
no. Has it ever
Mine
been,
is just well done.
Look at John's talk.
I was gonna say, has it ever been proposed before?
Yes,
Tried.
yes. We as selectmen proposed it in the last administration,
Okay,
and
and what was
and what happened, I think we could have done a better job in the way it was presented, but we did not include Steve Rear and Kathy Austin in assisting us to the presentation.
okay,
So I think maybe with the help of our
Yep.
representative, we may have a better chance of moving this forward.
mhm.
And I thought it was important that that article about Mrs. Stevens.
Yep.
Included.
The article about Mrs. Stevens is bone chilly.
Yes.
It just absolutely goes into some of the details that happened. It's very close to my heart, and the reason why I say that, I was the first responder there to assist, which I was hoping it wasn't Mrs. Stevens. And it's one of those accidents that as a firefighter you never forget. So this entrance ramp is again very close to my heart. So
Miss Stevens is a neighbor of mine and I remember when it happened. And I'm supportive of it. I'm just curious, where would it be?
yeah, at the on-ramp going toward Norwich.
Yeah, where would it be located?
We looked at it, it would almost have to, you would take a piece of the commuter lot, which is already there.
I was looking at that today.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you would end up going in back of the gas station
Mhm.
that is there. And hopefully by the time you got down a little bit, you'd be able to get onto the ramp.
Mhm.
There is space there. It's not like we're in Hartford where it's very tight or close or anything else. That's up to the engineering and I hope we can do it.
Because that might be an issue. I mean, when they investigate this,
When there's tight quarters, what they do is that they put a retaining wall so they don't have to go as far over to somebody else's property. If you've seen some of the entrance ramps on 91 and 95 down along Branford and Stamford and New Haven,
Mhm.
they take a concrete wall, they put it up, they have 20 feet wide and they go up.
Where?
Yes, so it's
Okay.
it's nothing new to the engineers at the DOT. Would you like to change any of the wording, since this is a letter from all of us?
No, and one of the
Well done.
things you said here I thought was really critical is the only way that they can get going east is on North Main.
Correct.
There is no other way.
Right.
Other than a
Yeah.
residential street.
Yeah.
So,
Some of the original language I used was that the entrance ramp or exit 12 has outlived its life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that was a term
Mhm.
that we had. There were several drafts of this letter and Deb and I went back and forth and she had some great ideas and I had some lousy ideas and it went back and forth. So
Joe, why don't you make the motion then?
I make the motion to forward this letter to our our representative, Steve Rear and Kathy Austin.
And I'll second it.
Any other discussion?
Nope.
Those in favor?
All right,
Aye.
I,
thank you.
Please stay after the meeting and I'll just.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was gonna
So
say.
we can all sign it.
Okay,
Okay, erase the 5A and give it to Simone and you can send it.
perfect. Thank you. Good job, Joe.
Okay, I don't believe we have any resignations or new hires. Boards, commissions, resignations, appointments, and reappointments next time around,
Yes, we will have a few on December 3rd, but we don't.
not tonight. Unfinished business, in your packet too is an invoice. Yes. As you know, when we had the tribute to 9/11 and 436 American flags that all of us cooperated in placing. Those were originally purchased by Ian Phillips. And the bill for that was $646.11. She assured me that the American Legion gave her a check for $486, which would leave a balance of $160.11. And I would like to see us reimburse her the $160. So do I have a motion to do that? Ready? And a second?
I will second it for sure.
Any discussion? Those in
Yeah,
favor?
I got this. I think, maybe a little notice on thanking Ann, for initiating this. She stepped up to the plate. She used her own money and we got nothing but compliments because of what she, started. And,
And when we spoke on the phone, she says, and I'm hoping that it'll be done again next year.
fantastic.
We'll be out there putting the flags in.
Good. Okay.
Those in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Thank you.
The ARPA fund status and reallocation.
All right. My team and I are working hard to meet all the procurement requirements before December 31st to spend the remaining ARPA dollars. We anticipate, as of today, that we will have about $275,000 remaining to allocate. Tonight, I'm asking for you to approve two projects or to set aside to allocate ARPA funds for two projects. One is to replace the fire alarm system at the Public Works Garage for an amount up to $20,133, which is $3,000 more than the bid, just in case to give a little bit of wiggle room. It came to my attention. I was not always aware that the fire alarm system at the Public Works Garage has been non-functional for at least a couple of years, since before I was hired. If OSHA were to make a visit or I mean, God forbid, if there was a fire, then we would be in a very bad place. My understanding is that the company that installed it changed hands. The gentleman who owned it retired, sold it to someone else. The quality of their service, responding to our phone calls, coming by to fix it, declined. And at some point, 2 years or more ago, a team member, exasperated with the constant noise, took a pair of clippers and cut the wire behind the panel to make the sound stop, thereby rendering the system completely inoperable. So it seems to me that this would be a good use of our remaining ARPA money to rewire it, to upgrade the panel and the sensors so that the system functions as it was intended.
So it's not starting from scratch. They can use part of what's there already.
My understanding is that they will reuse the conduits for the wires, as much of the wiring as possible. That's why this price could fluctuate a little bit. They'll reuse as much as they can. But the system, even if the wire had not been cut, was quite old. And so they will need a new panel and the sensors that are out in the garage bays and that do have a finite lifespan. They have, some chemical or some system in there that is able to detect smoke, and that does not last forever. So much of it will need to be replaced, but not all.
Do you know how long of a project this would be to do the work, to get it up and running, fire alarm system?
I think that once it is scheduled, they would come out and do it in a couple of days. I don't think it's a long-term project.
David, I have a question. Was any member of the fire department or fire commissioners or fire marshal's office notified of this and to ask for input or what is needed and what's not needed, or have, again, input on this project? Was there any, again, from the fire marshal's office, fire department, or fire commissioners have input on this project?
No, it came together fairly recently. I was a little bit, Joe, do you know in Connecticut, I know that you've told me that the fire marshal is obligated to inspect commercial properties annually.
Mhm.
Does that also apply to municipal properties?
It is
Do you do
exactly
that?
right. Yeah, and in reference to the fire alarm system, it is not a code requirement for that system to be there. It's over and above the minimum requirement.
Okay,
So if someone told you that it has to be here because of OSHA or et cetera, they may be misleading you. Because the square footage of that facility does not require a fire alarm system. So the question is this, is the building in compliance the way it sits there today?
it could be, but given the number of people who we have working there and the value of all of the equipment that we have parked there, do you think it would be valuable to have a fire alarm?
It's a good feature to have there, but it is not. I want to make sure that you understand that this is not a code requirement. This is over and above the minimum requirement. We don't have the great number of people. If we had a place of assembly, you have 50 people or more, yes, you have to have it. If you have a garage such as that one there, it's over 12,000 square feet, yes, you have to put it in. So there are certain thresholds that require that kind of thing to be there. But it doesn't meet it. So to put the fire alarm in, what a great idea. It's good to have, but it's over and above the minimum requirement of the language that we have today.
Okay, but what you're saying as fire marshal, you're suggesting we do it.
Pardon?
What you're suggesting as fire marshal is that we do it.
It's always good. It's good to have, but we have
We're
to
just
be
clarifying it's not a code situation.
correct. Exactly.
Okay, good.
Exactly right. So that's
Not to question the code, it just seems kind of
it's,
odd, for lack of a better word, not.
yeah.
Needed.
Yeah, we don't,
Would-
the fire marshals don't, right, it comes out of the Codes and Standards Committee,
Yeah.
it comes out of NFPA, they look at large number of people, they look at high hazard occupancies, et cetera,
Okay.
and then the amount of square footage you got, et cetera, and that will pull the trigger on if you need it or not.
Mhm.
Great idea, I would never discourage it, but,
Did you know it was there?
pardon?
Did you know that this alarm system was there?
I knew that the alarm system was there, but it
Okay.
was very difficult to cite because it's not a code requirement.
Okay.
How could somebody
Yeah.
ask over and above
Right.
what the minimum
Mhm.
Right.
requirement is?
And
So
whoever cut it also didn't do anything illegal. So.
they,
yeah,
there is a minor clause there. It says that if you see it, you assume that it works. Well, the occupants know it doesn't work. It's not like a place of assembly, et cetera. But the question I do have in reference to the nuts and bolts of the actual system, are we putting ionization heads in there? Are we putting photoelectric? What are we doing? Is there radar wise, et cetera? I don't know what the nuts and bolts are on this particular system. And I think it would have been wise that either someone from the fire department or fire commissioners or fire marshal's office at least what the project consists of to see what we're getting for the buck.
If you would like to review the scope, I'm happy to share that with you. What we did do, and this was, it would have been better to consult certainly with the fire marshal or the fire chief or both. But since we do have the former fire chief on the DPW staff, we did have him show us, how many sensors there were, where they were located. And when we bid out the project, we bid it out for that number, for a like quality of sensors so that we could effectively replace the system with one newer, but very similar to the existing one.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, I think it would be an ideal situation for Joseph to, look over it, or at least, be aware of what's being,
Hmm.
Okay.
Look over the.
suggested, or
But the question is to postpone the vote or to allow the vote to go through and then do it as an after effect.
I got a suggestion.
Mhm.
I think you should call for the vote. And if there are deficiencies within the system, it would have to be corrected before a permit is issued for the work that is there. But because I don't know the nuts and bolts of the system here and what we're getting for the bang for the buck, I will abstain from the vote, but the rest of the board's more than welcome to, vote.
If you look at the second piece of paper,
Right.
this basically has the wording that would be used for a motion. Someone would like to make a motion.
Does this have to be done tonight?
Well, let me make a suggestion. Could we just say contingent upon the review of Joe's review? Make it simple.
Can we do
No,
that?
I don't.
no, I think we should just
Thank
move
you.
along.
No,
It's
no,
with the
I
contingent.
think it could be
That's
moved
what I'm
along
saying.
as long as we have the understanding that if it's not in compliance with the most current regs, the permit doesn't get issued.
That's fine.
Right. So we
And
can
they have to
vote.
That
correct
makes
their.
sense, okay.
their-
And they have to correct it. I mean,
All right, okay, as long as you
Yeah.
do that.
I can live with that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
okay, I can live
I
with
can
that
live
too.
with that.
yeah.
Okay, good.
All right. So you want me to make the motion?
Hmm.
Recommend the Board of Selectmen utilize ARPA funds, well,
Mhm.
ARP funds, to award the contract to FASD, which is the Fire Alarm Specialty Design LLC, for $17,132.91 and allocate $3,000 as contingency for a total allocation of $20,132.91.
And then put the extra part that says.
Oh, and and
Compliant.
compliant, yes, I like that word, compliant with the fire marshals, would it be your,
Compliance with code prior to permit being issued.
okay. Tracy got that?
Hmm.
Tracy's got it.
Do I have a second for that motion? Any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Abstain. Thank you.
4 yes and 1 abstention.
All right, the second thing that I'm asking you to approve tonight for ARPA is for a Munis financial software assessment. We pay in software as a service fees for our Munis financial software package that the town and the Board of Education use. About $40,000 a year. It's excellent software, but it's very expensive. We originally signed that contract, for the scope of the various modules, not one, but 2 administrations ago. And we had a completely different team in our finance department. And so what the purpose of this is to have someone who is very experienced using this software come in and interview our new team members and the new team members at the Board of Education about how they are using it, what elements, what components of the software they are using, and number one, and then make a recommendation about what we should continue using, if there are any parts of the package, because you can segregate it out. We can cancel and stop paying for things that we're not using, and also potentially train people to make better use of the software than we currently are.
And that's a $20,000?
The contract has an hourly rate. They estimated that it would be about 18,500, but it could be less than that. It could be a little bit more. I'm asking for up to $20,000.
And this is the town's part, or just the school has their own part?
The town, especially if we use ARPA money, would pay for this entire piece, the Board of Education would allow their two finance team members to be interviewed, to
Come on board.
allow this individual or small team to assess how we're using it and do that, but we're not actually asking the Board of Ed to contribute to this project.
Okay, all right. Okay,
Okay, so we need a motion, please. I'll make the motion to award up to $20,000 for Munis Financial Software Assessment.
Okay.
Betty seconds it. Any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Thank you. And then you have a list of other things that we're going to be
That we are
in the
working
very near
on
future.
and anticipate bringing to you at the December 3rd meeting.
Yeah.
So we have the Firehouse 2 water treatment system, pedestrian crossing signals on North Main Street, a speed enforcement camera on North Main Street,
Yep.
a video, I said smart board, but I'm just reading, it's called Touch View or
Touch View.
similar. I think it would be wise to get one of these for the senior center so that when we have meetings up there, we can use
Yes.
Zoom. If there is funding available, I would like to get a shared vehicle for town staff to use. Even just in the last couple of weeks, I have signed a lot of mileage reimbursement forms for the assessor who is going out and doing inspections, for the tax collector who is doing certification courses in some far-flung corner of the state and is submitting for a lot of mileage. And our fire marshal, I think, was too busy this round, but on a fairly routine basis, in order to keep his licensure current, is required to do continuing education courses. And I think it would be entirely appropriate for him to use a town vehicle while attending those courses. So I think that if there is ARPA money to buy inexpensive, compact SUV, very fuel efficient, that could sort of be used in place of all of these mileage reimbursements, that would be wise. And then modest renovations to the tax collector's desk to make it more functional and a little bit more secure. And then I would like to add a wall in sort of my outer office with a door that is basically parallel with where Simone's desk is right now. And with that space where I'd like to move him into the small office with the window. And then I'm thinking about using that other space either as a conference room and or an office for our cemetery sexton, or possibly our assessor. I think that it would make sense for the sexton, especially since he is only here on a part-time basis, because he could use it to meet with people who are thinking about purchasing plots, and then it would be available for other meetings for the 20 or 25 or even 30 hours a week when he is not here. But I think that would be a better, more efficient use of the space than we currently have, and it would also right now, the sexton is the only person who, on a routine basis, has an office at Firehouse 2. I think it's a very strange arrangement to have a building where one person works. And it would, I think, contribute to a sense of camaraderie and make my job a little bit, the supervisory component of my job a little bit easier if he was in the same building.
Good idea.
Good.
And then I would also like to use some of the money to pay Novus, which is our technology, our IT contractor, to transition our town domain to a .gov domain. That is going to be required by the state, I think by the end of 2026.
Really?
And we did apply for a grant from the state to see if they would cover those costs. We just found out late last week that we were not awarded that grant. So it wasn't for lack of trying. And then I would also like to see if we could if we have some ARPA money left, and I actually think that we will, I'd like to repair the sidewalks up by Marlboro Elementary School. That would be really nice to do for them. I think it would be an olive branch heading into the budget season. And would also mean that they wouldn't have to request it during the budget season. Maybe it could just be done. That would be one thing that we don't have to talk about. So we're working on all of these things. I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to bring them all to you on December 3rd.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, Greg. You're nice.
All right, that leads us to your updates.
Yes. Thank you to those of you who attended with me. I believe it was last Wednesday. The Sustainable CT Award ceremonies. Our Sustainable Marlboro team has worked very hard, and as a community, we received the Silver Award down in Old Saybrook. It was a wonderful ceremony. I would note that of the 169 towns in Connecticut, I think they said something like 90 or 100 of them are participating in the program in some way or another.
It was
So
pretty high.
it's a lot of them. And by my count, there were only 5, maybe 6 that got the gold certification. 5. So, I mean, for Marlboro, in just 2 years to already have gotten the silver certification is really impressive and speaks to a lot of hard work and deep commitment from the members of Sustainable
But it
Marlboro.
was also very interesting, the other projects that were done by other towns.
yeah.
That was
Some
just,
ideas.
It
that
was
was
some ideas.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Great ideas. Yeah. This is very lovely.
I will also note, we, with your permission, which you granted at the last meeting, we did go ahead and order the compact SUV from Monaco Ford.
Okay.
So they have ordered it. It still has to be built. I think it's coming from Kentucky. It's where the Ford plant is that builds those, and we'll see when it comes, but the estimate is 60 to 90 days. So we
Wow.
look forward to
Nice.
getting that
that's good.
hopefully sometime in February. Then at my direction, Simone got some great practice applying for another grant. This was through the state 5310 program, which provides funding for accessible transportation programs. So like buses and things that are handicapped accessible. And I thought that it was a long shot, but I also knew that writing grant applications is a skill that needs to be practiced, and I thought it would be good for Simone to do it. Little did I know that he would actually get awarded the grant.
Nailed it.
He
nailed it.
He did a fantastic
Of
job.
course he did.
And we got the grant.
Oh my
that
goodness.
he asked for. So that covers 80% of the costs, and they pay 80. We would have to come up with 20% of the cost for a minivan with a wheelchair lift that is upfitted to accommodate a wheelchair.
Wow.
That's wonderful.
The total cost of these vehicles, we're still looking into, because you have to follow very specific procurement rules.
Yeah.
They're expensive.
But you know, including the upfitting, we're talking somewhere in like the $70,000 to $90,000 total range. But if we can get 80% of it
Fantastic.
covered, that would be fantastic, both for some of our seniors who are in wheelchairs. That would be a great addition to our fleet. And even when you don't have a passenger in a wheelchair, it still has 5 other seats.
Nice.
So we could use it to supplement the compact SUV that we just bought, and really reinvigorate our transit program for our seniors.
I've been in them, one of them recently, very recently, and they are absolutely fantastic. I didn't even know they existed till about a month ago. And they roll up in the back and they strap them in, but if you don't, like you said, if you don't need the wheelchair, you got 5 more seats. It is wonderful. So and it just looks like an SUV. It's wonderful. Plus the fact it's kind of planning for the future. Our population in town is aging, and the good news is they don't seem to want to not live. Oh my God. That was a Freudian slip.
Leave.
They want to live too.
Indeed, not one of them. But anyway, I think it's great. I think it's really good.
David, who actually makes the chassis? Who actually makes the vehicle?
I looked at an upfitter, and they offer chassis from Chrysler, Toyota, and Honda.
Do you
We
have,
have
do
options from all three.
you have a choice of gas or diesel, or are they all gas?
All of the ones that I saw were gas. The Toyota was a hybrid.
Mm,
I want to make one more comment about that. I think really makes them so wonderful is you don't need that wide spot because you
Yeah.
just park them in the back,
Yeah.
just like you're putting your
You don't
groceries
need
in.
double
Yeah,
width
you don't need it.
to park.
So you put it into a regular parking
Yeah.
spot because
It
all you
opens
do
in
is
the
roll
back.
in. They're wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same size as a minivan.
Yes.
I think they cut off the roof and make it a little bit higher.
Okay.
If,
Maybe, but the one I saw, I mean, you wouldn't notice the difference if it's minor, believe me, it's,
Okay.
and they're just like a regular SUV. They're amazing.
so I was very proud of Simone for
Yeah,
being such
yeah,
a good
nice.
friend.
Fantastic.
And look forward to, unfortunately, we did check those program guidelines and we cannot pay for the 20% match with ARPA money. We
Okay,
don't allow it,
okay.
but we'll
Fine.
find